Whatever his new names he calls himself. Look, listen, this platform always defends women, especially the.
Okay, but his government name is Eligio Bishop, so there's that. Now, I Smoke Hip Hop has made a video, and he feels that Nature Boy got too much time, and he feels that women, are celebrating him getting this time, but they don't, try to pursue that, with other people who have done them wrong or done their family wrong. So let's listen to some of what he has to say.
Sisters. So please spare me some of y'all emotional attitudes and anger. Save that for your baby daddies, boyfriends, and lovers. You feel me? We gotta keep it real on this one. First of all, I'm not a fan of Nature Boy. Feel me? We gotta keep it real on this one. First of all, I'm not a fan of Nature Boy. Most people know this is documented on YouTube. He lied to me multiple times, so I do believe he's a narcissist. I have proof of all our backgrounds, exchanges through DMs and all that, but I don't really expose people on the DMs and do that. You know what I mean? Then no one would trust you. But I find it baffling this court, this systematic system, will find a man like him immediately guilty
Talking about the DMs is the same thing, in my opinion.
and immediately sentence him, not even a whole day later, 22 hours later, sentencing him to life plus 10 years and no parole and the way. And I'm not out here to defend him. He put this on himself, but some of these so-called witnesses and so-called victims were questionable at best. Let's never forget that, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of these.
I agree with him, and to go a step further, people look at them as victims. I don't. And I know a lot of you are upset that I and whomever else may not share that same opinion, but people have a right to their opinions and perceptions in life. And I don't, nor will I ever see them as victims. And if you go and listen to Willow's videos that she did, one video her and Rambo did, she is one of the earlier, members of Carbonation. I believe she actually joined when it was still Melanation, if I recall. However, her and Rambo did a video when Eligio was trying to fire his lawyer, and they did another video when the verdict came in, and those were two very good lives in my opinion. They said a lot of things that I thought was profound. I had not actually listened to them in a long time, and I was very surprised at what I was hearing from them. But basically they were saying that these are the consequences of his actions, and as far as everybody else, they can keep blaming Nature Boy if they want to and play a victim, but she doesn't see them as victims. They're not victims. Everybody make choices, and these are facts. You guys can say what you want about manipulation and mind games and all of that, but if you allow someone to do that, then there's that. Coming up on a person as an adult and you have not been in their world or, a part of their world your whole life. So different, but you allow yourself, they went there wanting to believe that this guy was the, second Jesus. Like, okay, let's start there. That's a choice that they decided to make. Okay. And so, they chose to allow these things to happen. They chose to believe in him. They chose to stay as long as they did. They chose to endure a lot of things that they endured. And, these things tend to happen in some religions, but most of the time, a lot of these people in these type of situations are born into these situations. Most of these people went there as young adults. So, I mean, come on.
People are grown women. Grown women who are lusting after Nature Boy, and when he didn't pay attention to some of them, they got in a vengeful tactic. Now, some of them I do believe were coerced and manipulated, whatever you want to say it. I thought at worst and at best, Nature Boy was going to get 20 years, and that would have been shocking to me, to be honest with you guys. Anything past, 10 years would have been a shocker. For them to give this man life, and all you black women are celebrating, cool. I understand that part. Why aren't you?
Okay, so this is where I'm not understanding why he is saying these things, because let's take a look. So you see here, it says all you gotta do is look at the law. And then look at his confessional. Well, it's his interrogation, which I call his confessional, because he did say that the woman told him no, and she was like, no, no, and he said, "Babe, chill out, chill out." He said that to the detectives. I mean, he literally said that. I don't know what would possess someone to tell the detectives that are telling you that a woman has accused you of violating her rights to reject your advances, that she did say no and you told her to chill out. To chill out. Then he said, you know how it is, okay? So he confessed, all right? So therefore, he was going to be found guilty regardless, right? Okay. Now, it says here that rape is a serious crime. And I think it's weird that as content creators, we're not supposed to be allowed to say that word. Yet media channels say it. Other channels say it. They're not banned from YouTube. So, stuff like that is just so weird. But anywho, this is a thing, right? Okay. But it is a serious crime in DeKalb County. Okay. And it is defined as follows. A person commits the offense when he has carnal knowledge of a female forcibly and against her will, or a female who is less than 10 years of age. Okay. Carnal knowledge occurs when there is any penetration of the female organ by the male sex organ. Okay. Now let's go on. So they talk about the elements, and we know what that means, right? Okay. They talk about incompetence. They talk about intoxication. They also talk about it does not require physical injury or semen. He also said in his interrogation that there was no physical injury to her, which he had, he knew about the charges beforehand, so he didn't even bother to look them up. So that if he was going to run his mouth, he would at least know what to say and not to say, which in my opinion should have been, I plead the fifth and I want to see my lawyer. Okay. But he chose to run his mouth. So a person convicted can be punished by death. Okay. By death. By imprisonment for life. They're not playing around. It's simple. It's plain as day. I understand what you are saying, I Smoke, and to some degree I agree with the concept of what you're trying to convey. From what I understand you're trying to convey, I understand that, and I think it should be said. I think it should be said, for a lot of reasons, but I'm not going to get into that right now. However, the statute of limitations of the prosecution is up to 15 years. So if you are charged in DeKalb County, which is the county he was charged in, then you will be brought over before a magistrate judge within the first 72 hours of your arrest. Okay. This judge will not set a bond. Okay. You will need to have a bond motion filed before DeKalb County Superior Court judge. So whatever they was doing all this time and crying and whining about, I mean, it literally says that you would not get a bond motion, but you can file one with the Superior Court. Good luck with that. I don't know if he did that. Okay. This is from a lawyer's page, so we're gonna skip the last part. Now, if you face the charges in Georgia, it is imperative that you do not make any statement. He could have looked this up at any time. They could have looked it up at any time, but they were never quiet. They were never quiet. Okay. So here is from a lawyer telling something that should be standard across the board, but just in case nobody else understands this, it is imperative that you do not make any statements to a law enforcement or anyone else, and immediately seek help from an experienced attorney in handling these type of cases in Georgia. Okay. You must protect your rights and take this matter very, very seriously, because anytime that they say if you're convicted, you will pay with your life, it says by death. By death. Not they're not gonna literally put you to sleep. They're just gonna put you in a cell until you what? Die. Okay? So again, they are so bright. We gotta wear shades. All right? They did not even look this up. We know they didn't look it up because look at how they carried about the entire time. A simple Google search on what the listen, if I was charged with something, especially something I've never been charged with before, I'm not familiar with, I'm going to look it up. Okay, I'm going to see what constitute these charges. I'm going to look and see what constitutes it in the city and state that I'm in. When is the possible punishment? And I'm going to a lawyer. And I ain't saying nothing to nobody. But that's just me. But again, I didn't go join Natureboy. So my mind is a little different. You understand? Their minds? So it says the statute of limitation is 15 years. Okay, now that's repetitive. Okay, don't make any statements. The magistrate. Okay, here we go. Just to be clear, if a person is convicted of rape, okay, we're saying grape, but we know what we're saying. So weird. You can be punished by death, by imprisonment for life. I mean, this is straight up and serious. Okay, it's straight up and serious. And look, I didn't even look this up until like the trial got started. But he knew about this. How long has it been? Like 2 years. He knew about it before he actually was arrested. Well, then again, he was arrested when she filed the charges. So I don't think he had a heads up. However, he's been in jail since April of 2022. This is February. Well, it's March now, but it was February of 2024 when he went to trial. So he had all that time for himself to look this up or to have his girls look it up while they were doing everything else under the sun, including all running their mouths. Okay. So, life, death by imprisonment for life. Okay. Without, say without parole. Okay. By imprisonment for life with the possibility of parole, or by a split sentence. There's your 10 years there, bro. There's your 10 years. Okay. So when people say, I don't think he should have got life. Well, honey, it doesn't really matter, because if he's convicted of doing it, which we all can agree that we feel like from what we saw and knew, because, he was so bright to put everything just about on camera all these years. We already had the perception that he was doing this to them, except for, okay, now here's where, we may disagree again, except for they were willing participants in it, just like somebody carrying out some BDSM, or, that's their fantasy. People have these type of fantasies. Whatever the case may be, this was basically a ritual of theirs. Okay, we saw him pass the women around. We saw him dedicate so-called wives to other men, and then whenever he felt like it, take them back. We saw all of their lives to where he was basically bullying the women, okay, especially if they had reservations about sleeping with him or anybody else, okay, all right. I could bring up certain lives, but I don't want to, because it's just sad. And at the end of the day, we all watched it. A lot of us actually did commentary on it. I have actual videos on my page where I'm doing commentary at that time that they were posting certain situations that we can all look at and say, this is forcing a woman, I guess you can say against her will, although they were there and they were putting up with it, we can tell that they were uncomfortable with the actions. Okay. And he would make a mockery of it. He was proud of these things. So whether or not you feel like he did it that time, and I'm not saying this that I smoke, or just anybody, he actually admitted to what it technically is by law. So there's no question. There's literally no question. Now, we can question why the woman doubled back and did it, aka filed these particular charges. However, the law gives her up to 15 years for a reason. For a reason. Okay? So, I hadn't listened to the interrogation until the jury wanted to listen to it again. Now, we understand that this trial was not just readily available. It wasn't streamed online by the courts. It was actually given, via secret link. So bits of, the trial was getting out at different times from different sources, and everybody wasn't streaming the interrogation. So things moved really fast, right? However, when the jury asked to go back and listen to the interrogation, that's when I had the opportunity to hear it. I still believe a lot of people didn't actually hear his interrogation. It's online now. You can just keyword search and you can hear it for yourself. He described what the law classifies as grape. Okay? When she says no, that is it. That is it. That is all. That is it. That is all. That is it. That is all. Okay? There is no debate here. There is literally no debate here when you say he doesn't deserve life. Okay, you may feel that way. That is a matter of opinion. However, the law, I want to be clear about this thing. The law says if you commit this act, this is what you get. And they said death by life imprisonment. That is real serious. And the only person that anybody can really say anything about at this point is Natureboy. Okay, because he's so dumb, he actually did the things he did. He actually put everything online. Okay, he actually decided at that particular time that he was not going to respect the fact that she did not want to engage in this act. He told her, chill out. He said that twice. Chill out. Literally, chill out. And he said he was holding her, like hugging her. It sounds really, 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 really bad if you listen to it. So everything that we've seen from this guy, we can only imagine, put ourselves, as if we were watching this, as if we were watching yet another one of his horrible lives, right? And we can imagine them there in that moment and him being intimidating like he always is, with his hands on her and her crying, okay? And him telling her, chill out. Are we not clear on this? Are we not clear on this? Now, Natureboy again had plenty of time to shut his mouth, but that is something he seems to be incapable of doing. Again, you can't get mad at nobody but him. Okay? You can't get mad at nobody but him. All right? He didn't close his mouth. He didn't even research the crime. He thought that he could smooth this out with the detectives. Such arrogance while confessing to the very crime that they are telling him he is accused of doing. Now, if he had not known about the charge, which is likely because he did brag online that she charged him with posting, the video without her consent, and he said he got that cat in the bag. And if you look at the law, it says they're going to come get you within 72 hours. So he may not have heard of the charge by the time that they came to get him. Shut your mouth. Ask for a lawyer. He didn't do that. He talked. And in his talking, he described what is, by law, the thing that he was convicted of. And he was convicted in accordance with the law. Now, when you say the judge gave him extra time because of his actions, I smoke. Sir, I'm going to tell you, that's how courts go. Now, some of us have gripes with how the trial went. Okay? And I don't deviate from those gripes. However, when it comes to his sentencing, it was expected, at least by me, for her to give him all that she could because of the way that he was responding. It doesn't matter that you do not agree. Once the court has made a decision, you keep it hush and you be respectful of the fact that these people are now, in the eyes of the court, your victims of that crime. Okay, laughing, being arrogant, and then making the statements that he made only seemed like more of attempts to intimidate them or to make a mockery of them. These type of things. The court does not smile on that. It is basically the same thing as you being held in contempt of the court. And you know how they deal with that in a courtroom. Once you're convicted of a crime and they're about to sentence you, they give you as much as they can versus having a little mercy on you. This is one reason why when detectives get you in interrogation and they try to say, tell me why you did it, we want to see that you're at least sorry. The family wants to see that you're at least sorry. Now, that is true. However, it is a tactic to get you to actually confess, right? But the way that you win that part is by saying, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to incriminate myself. And it's best for me to get a lawyer, and I will talk to you guys through my lawyer. That way you don't seem like you don't care. Because if at the end of it all you are convicted, they're going to use your interrogation. They're going to use the way you talked about it, the attitude you had, the defiance and all of that in your sentencing. Okay? You can study cases online. You can study interrogations. You can take it all the way to the trial, the conviction, the sentencing. You can actually read law about it. It is the way it goes. It's the way it goes. The judge was well within normal practices when she chose to give him an extra 10 years. Okay, his response was deplorable, even if he thinks he is innocent, which he is not, because he himself confessed. Okay, so it says you can be imprisoned for life with the possibility of parole, or by a split sentence that is a term of imprisonment for not less than 25 years and not exceeding life imprisonment, to be followed by probation for life. Now, this is if you get the possibility of parole, which he did not get. Any person convicted is subject to the sentencing provisions, and here's your code if you want to go and research it further. Okay. So some of the other things that I've heard is people saying, well, why didn't she get a kit done and all that stuff? It doesn't matter in Georgia. It doesn't matter in DeKalb County. Okay? It doesn't matter. These are their laws. You know, if she is saying this is what happened, then you're going to have to go to court and hopefully prove that you didn't do it. They don't need to have any physical proof. This is in Georgia. So he should have known the laws of the state that he decided to come and settle down and play his reindeer games in. You know? You can also read, further to see if you can determine whether or not he may or may not be granted some kind of appeal or new trial based upon what the law says. However, this is a long shot and it'll take a lot of money, which they clearly don't have, which is sad because they had at time and time again, right? Okay. So again, while these girls was out here doing all this and running their mouths, they should have been out here trying to get money. It takes money to try and defend yourself against this, and it's going to be even more money for any type of appeal. Okay? And the appeal is not even to bring forth new evidence, okay? It's to show where your rights were violated during the trial. Now, at the end of the day, regardless, the conviction will stand. The conviction will stand. He may have a shot at getting his sentencing changed, but I highly doubt that as well. Okay? Everything that we saw that we disagree with, honestly, it doesn't even matter at this point. It does not matter at this point because he did it. He did it. Nothing is going to change that. And secondly, look at how he acted. He kind of X'd it all out. He made it null and void to have a gripe against anything by the way he carried himself. Even going online, he felt like it was important enough to reveal that it was the judge that had COVID. So he go online? That doesn't make any sense to any sane thinking person. If that is something you have in your bag, you take that to your lawyer. You save it for your appeal. But he wanted to tell the public, like, we gonna be able to do something for, like, to the courts. Like, we're gonna be able to, what we gonna do, go down there and protest for him? Nobody did, as far as I know. Not even his followers. So I don't understand even what the girls are doing. I really don't understand what anybody's doing at this point, because it's plenty of time for us to have all the facts in the case. And the fact is, he himself admitted to what he did. They already had that when they went forward with the trial. So they already knew what it was. His lawyer already knew what it was. Okay? All the rest of the stuff that they did probably was for the public to know as well as understand. This is the type of guy that, will do this and deserves to be convicted of it in the manner that Georgia convicts a person of something like this. I don't know. But they already had his confession. It could have been shorter and simpler, to be honest. It could have been him and her. She testified. He decide whether or not he gonna testify. His defense attorney do what he gonna do. And they, let the jury hear the interrogation tape, and then bam. It really didn't have to be all that, but they decided that they were gonna, allow these grown people who was with him, who participated in a lot of his abuse, okay? All right. They willingly accepted it upon themselves, and they helped inflict it upon others. They were co-conspirators in a lot of the abuse that they themselves even testified of. Okay. Everybody was present and aware that the other people were being abused. They helped cover it up, and they helped in other ways that we didn't even get a chance to see. But when Velvet talked about being in a circle and getting beat down by him, they were the circle. The same people testifying, they were the actual circle. Okay, so they helped him. They are co-conspirators in his crimes, which was so weird. The courts know this. They're aware of this. When a lot of the other people talk about things he did, all y'all were cool with it. Nobody, y'all outnumbered this dude. Nobody stood up for anybody else. Everybody took their own punishment. So whatever you want to label it as, abuse. And nobody stopped him and said, hey, don't hit this person anymore. Don't subject this person to this type of punishment anymore. Nobody said that. You can listen to Joy, which is another person who was there. Her name is Tori. And Willow, who is now Grace. Okay, even they go through a lot of names. But they were talking on the last live that I mentioned earlier that Rambo and, well, his name is Quetzal now, and Grace, her name is Grace now, that they had. Tori talked about times where she would kind of speak up and say, hey, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. And they would kind of speak up for each other a little bit early on, but they eventually left. I don't even think that these people, the last one standing, was doing any of that. As we saw, they were actually hitting each other on camera. So these were co-conspirators in the crime, and they let them testify as if they were full-on victims. And then to sit up there and listen to one person testify and then another person testify when that other person was there and complacent in what was going on with that person and all this, and they knew. And they even said, did the other women knew that this happened? Yeah, they knew. Okay, so nobody ran to go get the police. Nobody did this and that and the third. However, when and if somebody decides that they want to hold you responsible for what you're doing to them and no longer be a part of, they can. And she did. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So, hey.
System does not do the same thing to the other groups of people who harm you. See, women, I love y'all so much that I'm going to keep it real. There's been the other groups of nations that have done heinous and horrific things to you guys, like death, murder, and torture. Natureboy hasn't even came close to what these other groups of nations have done to you, your kids, your grandparents, and all that, who happen to be women. They don't even get 5 years in prison or jail. Yet you women are everywhere going crazy, celebrating, saying, thank you, judge. This judge had the nerve to sit down and say the reason why she's sentencing Natureboy so quickly is because he didn't show no sympathy. He didn't show X, Y, and Z. But I'm like, if he says he's innocent, why should he? You know what I mean? I don't think he was innocent for some of these things, but doesn't he have a right to reserve this right of being innocent? So according to these judges, and if I'm not mistaken, that same female judge was the same one who got attacked when she provoked one of the defendants, during a different case. And I actually applauded that defendant. He should have went more hammer on her. My personal.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So that was the judge that the guy jumped across the... You sure that was the same one? Because that lady had longer hair. Okay.
But let's carry on. These demons in court do not like us. You can celebrate the downfall of Natureboy because he is a narcissist. Cool. I'm not out here to argue with you guys on that. But I find it disturbing the passes you guys give the other nations. I find it disturbing that you give the other nations ammunitions.
I smoke. I know you've had a problem with my opinions in the past, and I'm sure you're going to have a problem with this one. I find what you're saying disturbing because regardless of what other people do, these are the things that he did. So he shouldn't get a pass just because others have gotten passes somehow. It doesn't make any sense to even suggest that, because that's what I'm interpreting what you're saying. If this is not what you're saying, feel free to correct me. But it sounds like you're saying that he should have gotten a pass because other people aren't held responsible for their crimes. I think that the only person honestly, to blame here is him. Okay. I'm pretty sure all of these people are taking their own self walks, with themselves for whatever they did, going there, following him, and all that, right? That's on them. However, this guy is the perpetrator, okay? He is the one on trial here. He is the one being convicted here. He is the one called dead in the act. He is the one that decided he was going to post all of this for the world to see, for the world to make long-term records of his crimes. Okay. Now you're saying that he hasn't done half of what other nations have done. Okay, so let's keep it real here. Okay, when you talk about long-term abuse, he did that. Okay. When you talk about damages that can never fully be healed or erased, he done that. Okay. When you talk about eliminating babies before they even get a chance in this world, he did that. Not by himself, but he did that. It was at his beck and call. If it were left up to them, one can assume that they may, and I'm saying may, have not done or allowed these things to be done to their own children. Okay, these women left their children to go be with him. So he's not the only one responsible for a lot of things that happen, but he is the one who they put on trial. And, we can go on and on with things that he did and compare them, but those are just some of the main things. And let's not forget the fact that adults were deceased behind this cult here. Okay. If his cult did not exist, would they have suffered and died the way they did? It's according to what you believe. But we do know that the cult situation was a direct effect on the ending of their lives. Okay? If he didn't exist, if he didn't have these cults, if he didn't have them there, if all these things didn't happen, then, and they would have still passed away somewhere else, then of course he wouldn't even be involved, but he put himself in that position. Okay. So let's not even talk about the things that were done that we still don't even know about. Okay. But what we know about is terrible enough. I would say that him and these other nations that you speak about are pretty much neck and neck. Now, the difference here is that it's kind of harsh for you to try and hold us responsible, especially women, because I'm not sure how much power you think we have. Okay. Women have been given a title of having a lot of influence over what's purchased in the home, because they tend to be the main shoppers. But honestly, that's about it. Okay, women have not too long just come into certain rights: the right to work, the right to vote, the right to have a voice, and things like that. Okay, it is a fact that it is still not even technically legal for black women to actually vote. That is a fact. Okay, so we are not the courts. We are not the judicial system. And a lot of us are pretty familiar with how it works. Even Natureboy claimed to know how it works. He claims that he understood that black men tend to be charged more often, quicker, and more harshly and unfairly. Yet he still made a decision to broadcast his evil doings and his evil ways online. That's his fault. That's his fault. Okay? We know how the judicial system can go against a black man versus some of these other characters that you're speaking of, who, like you said, likely will never be brought to trial for any of the things that they have done because the system is not set up this way. So Nature Boy understood how the system was set up, yet he decided that he was going to hand himself to that system. That is a choice he made. Maybe you could interview him and ask him why, but he probably wouldn't tell you. And you probably would not get an interview since he has been ordered not to be able to really participate in anything concerning his crime. So, hey, we'll never know. You know, they used to take subjects of their choosing and examine their brains and make studies and make their own claims about what was going on with the black man versus the white man in their heads and their brains and stuff like that. You know, they don't really do that anymore as far as we know, so we won't get that either. Not saying we will believe it, but at the end of the day, no one will never really know. It's so many perpetrators of serious crimes, such as the ones like Nature Boy has done, that have been able to give some speeches and testimonies and things like that. You know we can name quite a few of them that were very, very heinous, and they had interview after interview. He will have none of that. Okay, so we don't understand what this was. Now, Rambo, actually, who is Quetzal, I'm working on it. He had a very interesting perspective on who Nature Boy really is. And I think you guys should go over there and listen, because I cannot restate their words as best as they stated them themselves. So it is very good for you guys to take the time out. I think everybody should watch that very last live. If you don't watch the one that they did when he was trying to change his lawyer, that was just like a warm up. But the live that Grace and Quetzal did after the conviction, the callers, everything, that was a very it was a very insightful live. It really, really was. I'm talking about jewels from beginning to end. And I think that regardless of how you feel or who, I guess, side you're on or whatever perspective you're having on this situation, not for them to change any of that, but I think it helps give another way of possibly looking at it, or some deeper insight, or just some things to ruminate on. It is very good to watch the live. I'm really suggesting that people go watch the live, and I'm going to promote it a couple more times because I really think everybody should watch that live. Okay. And again, Quetzal, who used to be, we knew him as Rambo, he gave his insight as to what he thinks that, Nature Boy was amongst people on this earth. And it makes sense, if you look at it from that perspective. And the people who were there especially should hear that, because, it's more for them than anybody else. However, we can't deny that a lot of people were affected by it. You were affected by it. Clearly, listen to your video. I was affected by it. Everybody who engaged to some degree was affected by it, because this was serious. And even though we have people in the past, you have your Eddie Longs, you have your York, Dr. York, and all of that. These were not live and in our faces in real time, as a lot of these things occurred just pretty much every single day, like this was. Okay. And then it started out as something that was perceived to be intended as something good. And that's how they go. That's how they go. So I think that your intentions here are pure. I really do. I think that to some degree what you're trying to convey, as understood by myself, can be respected. However, I think it's borderline offensive for you to direct any type of anger or, you know, disappointment in really anybody other than Natureboy. Okay?
To do this to us while you don't have the same outrage when they do it. I mean, they don't do it to the people who actually do harm you, to the actual groups of people who are actual harm to you. Listen, black women, I get it. You don't like black men. No matter what we say or do, you're always going to be in defense. There is no accountability. And I'm not speaking to all black women. So fall back with attitude and anger. Once again, I'm not your baby daddy. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your lover. I'm not the side nigga. I'm the dude that's going to love you, pick you up when you're down, and tell you the cold hard truth. And that's what they don't like, not even on YouTube. You paying attention to systematic systems. I don't get into the systematic and all that. I call the devil what the devil is. And like the scripture told me, shame the devil. In this case, the man you call Eligio Bishop, whatever Natureboy, I'm gonna call him Natureboy. That's what I knew him as for the last 10 years or more. But Natureboy, he is no different than some of the people who should be found guilty. I'm cool with that. But what's always going to be something that has to stick and be embedded.
I'm gonna add something because of what he's saying in the clips that he's showing, and I'm gonna eventually do some videos on this. There are a lot of other cults circulating right now. And there's some of them are yoga based. I don't know if you guys heard of any, but they had a lot of victims. Okay, there were men and women in head of these cults, and you know they have a lot of people who come forth and this, that, and the third, and this is another reason why I can understand where he's coming from, because these people have not and will not ever get the same, you know, type of treatment that this guy has gotten. Okay. But at the end of the day, he knew the odds, yet he still chose what he chose. Okay, he still chose what he chose. I think it was a heavy hitter for a lot of people, regardless of how you felt about him, to see that he did get life plus 10 years without parole. However, I don't think that anybody's really feeling sorry for him unless you're a supporter, because a lot of us feel like he actually does deserve it because of the things that he did. We cannot forget the things that he did. And to make it even more so, once I heard this guy on tape saying yes, she said no, and I said chill out, and everything else he said, then that was it for me. There's no more question on the table about what this was, because he himself admits that that's what it was. So I hope you've been around for a long time, you know, covering different, you know, sectors, you know, music, whatever, but you dabbled in this side of town a little bit too. So you, like you said, you had communications with this guy, so you were familiar with what was going on. So you saw a lot of what he did, and it just seems to me like you're trying to downplay what he has done and the impact that he himself has had on his very own people, which, in another note, you're talking about the impacts that others have had on said people. But we do not have the power to hold these other people accountable. Unless you have some suggestions on how that can be done, we're all ears. But I think it's deeper than having the power to. It's having the courage, if you are made aware that you have the power somehow, which honestly, we don't. That is a disadvantage that we have in this society. He is aware of that disadvantage. It's almost as if this is what he wanted his legacy, his story, his ending to be. It's hard to convince me of otherwise because look at how he behaved. Now, is there some level of insanity with this dude? I would think so. So I think that played a part in it as well, but I don't think this guy liked himself very much. I think he felt like he was the opposite of what he said. He was some kind of curse, and his life was a mistake, and he had no other possibilities of any type of future. Any man that beats down his, let's not forget his beginnings that we know of, because that's, I'm sure, not the first time he's acted out in a major way. But if you go back and listen to Maisha's testimony when she was live with young Pharaoh, I also have that video on my page. When she talked about how this guy beat her down and you see how her face looked, then you hear him brag about it online and say he was trying, and he was laughing then. He said, I was trying to murder her. He says it as if he is disappointed that he did it. He was trying with all his might. That's how he said it. Then you listen to her say when she was trying, when you talk about women not liking black men. I know you said not all, but this woman forgave him. She tried to give him chance after chance to realize that the path he was on wasn't good for him or anybody else, and to change. She was being his guide. She gave him chance after chance. Even after doing that, can you imagine this woman being outside in the dark on the porch? People are in the house, yet they can't hear you. You're in the country somewhat, so your neighbors really can't hear you. And he is beating you. And your life is flashing before your eyes. And the only thing that saves your life is somehow somebody heard and called the police and pulled him off of you. Okay. Even with him facing, he still wasn't facing the same time. Why? Because that's the way the system is set up. I believe he was facing like 20, maybe 20 years. She backed out of that. She went out her way to write a letter to help absolve him of getting that time. And then you can hear her testify. And I don't even have to go back and watch it. And my memory is not that good. But this is something that I'll never forget. When Maisha testified to young Pharaoh's, platform, not in court, but that this guy even was drunk, pulled a gun, put it to her head, and she thought her life was going to end yet again. Okay. And there's more. But when people have this perception, because that's the story that she actually allowed him to go with by, not coming out and saying he lied, that he decided he needed to be Natureboy and he gave away all his stuff. No. Where you gonna go after that? Back to your normal life? No, you leaving. Right? You're leaving. It's time for you to go somewhere else and do something else because the life you knew is over. You can't still be Bishop in your barbershop and flashy and loved by everybody after you done these things to this woman. So that's how he began his journey as Natureboy. Let's not forget. Okay? Let's not forget the way we saw him treat people time and time again. The way he showed that he didn't care for none of their lives, time and time again. The way he humiliated them, time and time again. And yes, they participated. However, this was him. Time and time again. Babies existing and then ceasing to exist per him. His own baby mama and baby almost losing their life because of him. Okay? Let's not do that. Let's not say maybe, or no, you said you don't feel like he something to that effect. You don't feel like he committed the same crimes or as much or whatever. I disagree. I think a lot of people would disagree. And I think that it's worse because it came from this black man who had the nerve to play everybody like they stupid by trying to say, soon as the heat is on his tail, oh, I'm Natureboy, we're about natural living, and this is a skit, and we're trying to get people to understand the message, the information that he actually got from other people was never his own. Of course, we know nothing is ever our own, but he clearly got the downloads himself. Literally.
Your brain is that the fact that the court will always throw the book at us while giving passes to people who look like them, people who remind them of their own kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces. I've seen so much heinous cases in my 30-something years on earth. Never have I ever seen these magistrates say the same lecturing to all these counterparts from their nation, meaning people who look like them. They've never done these things. But when it comes to you and I, you best believe they don't just only throw the books at you, they throw the words. She was so mad at Natureboy, she didn't only give him life, she added an extra 10 years. One of my homeboys went to prison, you feel me, for murder. Before he went to prison for murder, he was only 14 years old, and something happened with him and an elderly person, which I'm not making an excuse for him. He got 5 years. He served 4.5 years, didn't really have a childhood, got out of prison, and he killed somebody, allegedly or not, whatever. Whether he's guilty or not, he probably is guilty. I'm not making excuses for him. But I was baffled in court when the magistrate, because the dude he killed was another drug dealer trying to kill him. So I was baffled how the judge of that case pretended like they cared for another drug dealer and gave him a lecture. They gave my homeboy life plus 63 years. Now, I do think you should be throwing the book at you for murder. But once again, I'm a fair person. What about the other nations who do the same thing my homeboy did, if not far worse? They don't even get 10 years. They don't even get 5. But you guys are out on IG. You're commenting. It's good for Natureboy. You're saying all this crap, but you guys have fear in your hearts. You're not ready for this real fight of self-respect. I don't use the word revolution. I call it self-respect. You're not ready for it. It seems you come out in drove to belittle your own kind in front of the masses. Meanwhile, you don't have this same fight for the other nations. And if you
Okay, I understand. I understand where you're coming from with what you're saying. However, again, this is the system we are in. We all know this. Okay, we all know this. So if I do anything, okay, you name it, something similar to what you're saying, somebody break in my house and I go within the law, okay, and that person is, deceased because of that, right? I could be well within the law, but anybody who is black, right, is going to be terrified. Because it is literally up to them how they proceed, regardless of what the deal is. And you better have a lot of money if you want to go against it, if they're going to try and put you away for it. We know this. We know this. We are all up under this same umbrella of these type of fears. We are not treated the same. These are facts, but who are you upset with? Because we didn't create this system. We did fall and bend and bow down to it. I can understand you with that. I can understand you with saying we should fight back. Okay. But, I don't think that's going to happen either. I can't understand you when you're saying that people should not belittle him or enjoy the fact that he got punished the way he did. I can't agree with you on that. Nature Boy was a horrible person who caused a lot of harm. He does not get a pass just because he is a dark skinned brother. He does not get a pass. He chose to do this to his own people. He chose to. When he had that white girl and they were on his tail. Wait, is that a dude back there with pasties on? Because he had too much body fat? Is that what? Okay, anywho. Why you keep using this same clip over and over? I just, there were so many. I mean, I don't know why you would keep using this one, but, okay. When Nature Boy had that white girl and he saw that they were not playing with his tail about that white girl, regardless of what she chose, he knew that they would not react the same about the black women. He even said this himself. Nobody cares about you. The system don't care about you like that. And your family don't care about you like that. I'm not saying I agree with him, but I agree with him saying the system don't care about them like that. Meaning they're not going to comfort him about these women like that. It took the women to go and go to them. Because everybody can see that they're there. They want to be there. Right? And the white girl said she wanted to be there, but they didn't care because that's how they get down about theirs. We're not the same. I can understand you having a gripe about that, but I cannot understand you having a gripe because people are happy that this evil thing here is gone away. I can't even call him human or a person. He is sick. Let's not even talk about the children. Okay, I'm not talking about the babies who didn't make it. I'm talking about the children who were live and there, including his own children who at some point in time were there, but they were his offspring. Better without him. However, again, you can't get mad at people for being happy about this. It's not like he didn't do anything. It's not like he didn't do horrible things. It's not like people are not actually deceased because of this dude. Scarred, traumatized. It's not just the people we saw that were affected. It was their families that were affected. It was us watching that were affected. Imagine what Brother Marquez went through. And I believe when he passed, his daughter was still with Nature Boy. Can you even put yourself in his shoes as a father? Knowing that your daughter is there with this dude, enduring all of this, but also fighting to stay with him, going against you and her family to stay with him. You can't even describe that kind of heartbreak and torture, because what can you really do? We saw him go there more than once. But at the end of the day, what can he do? Do you remember how he taunted that man and told him that he was her daddy now? Convinced this girl to come and say a lot of terrible things that some was not true about this man. For a dude that she just met? You don't think that helped his early departure? What, he was like in his 40s or whatever? I believe heart problems. People do indeed pass from a broken heart. If we can say stress kills, we can say yes, that does happen. I don't think you're considering all of the factors here. This is too much aggression against the wrong people. Okay? This is something that any and everybody needs to check themselves on. Even myself had to do that. Again, this has affected everybody. And just like it's going to take them time to evolve to a better place from this and to realize a lot of things, this is another reason why they give the victim 15 years to first realize that this is indeed what happened to you, especially if you were actively in an abusive situation with this person. It can become so normal for so long that you don't even realize that you have a voice and it wasn't right and you don't have to endure it, and the law says so. I just I'm just really kind of thrown aback by this.
Notice about groups of the other nations, I got somewhat respect for them. Even though they're against crimes, supposedly, which I don't believe, but you'll never see groups of them going on IG, Facebook, and YouTube talking about, go girl, they got him, they got Nature Boy and all that. No, they stick to a code. It may not be a tasteful code, but nevertheless, it's a code of honor that they have. I don't think those group of people have any type of honor, but nevertheless, it's an honor that they have. Where is our honor, sisters and brothers? And I don't even like Nature Boy, and I think he's guilty of some of these things, if you ask me. I think he's guilty of showing sexual tapes. I think he's guilty of saying the things he did to his own son. I'm not going to get into that. You know what I'm saying? These are the things I find him guilty of. I think he's guilty of being a narcissist. But to say these grown women, some of these things were done to them, it's like, come on. You can clearly see a lot of these women were scorned, jealous, and when they got with Nature Boy in the first place, the only way you're able to get manipulated by anybody, man or woman, is if you were lusting after that individual. And that's just the truth. You can't get over that. Now, a lot of you are going to be mad, even though I was following this case and I was rooting for the women to win. You know what I mean? But it threw me off when they gave him life plus 10 years and no parole. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been groups of nations. One individual, I'm not going to say his name, he's from the other nation. He's killed 10 black women, including women and kids, and they only gave him 30 years, plus he got parole within 15 years. You go study that case. There's reasons I don't want to say the name of that on YouTube, but if any intellectual scholars want to argue with me on that, we can do it offline on IG or Facebook, because they have limitations compared to
Wait,
YouTube.
what do
We
you
can
want to
definitely
debate
do that.
again? Rewind that.
You can't get over that. Now, a lot of you are going to be mad, even though I was following this case and I was rooting for the women to win. You know what I mean? But it threw me off when they gave him life plus 10 years and no parole. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been groups of nations. One individual, I'm not going to say his name, he's from the other nation. He's killed 10 black women, including women and kids, and they only gave him 30 years, plus he got parole within 15 years. You go study that case. There's reasons I don't want to say the name of that on YouTube, but if any intellectual scholars want to argue with me on that, we can do it off.
Well, listen, this is very simple and very easy, and I'm not mad at you. I hope you can tell that, because I can understand where you're at. I trust me. I can understand where you're at. When you talk about another case or whatnot, there's really no debate because of how the law works. Okay. In court, they do use cases that have taken place and gotten certain outcomes to argue any objections or desire of motions in their present cases. Okay, they even use some in this case, right? But there's really nothing that can be argued here. So when you say you follow the case, did you follow it off of emotion, or did you follow it legally? Because again, it happened so fast, and we were denied like just a regular stream where everybody can see and hear everything that was going on in court. So it did have some delays with what we understood was going on and why, right? Okay, so I think everybody gets grace for that, right? But again, you say you're following the case. Were you following off your emotions and your perceptions of what you think should happen? Okay, as we're hearing you say, the other people versus what he got. Well, if his attorney had tried to argue whatever case you're talking about, right? Okay, we're going to say the state of Georgia versus Judd. Okay, first of all, it has to be the state of Georgia and it has to be DeKalb County, right? And it has to be same charges, right? Okay, to argue that outcome to this outcome, what was the punishable law at that time? Okay, was it life? Was it the option of life with the possibility of parole, or pay for it with your life by life imprisonment without the possibility of parole? Giving the judge the option of, adding on time for whatever reason, and then you have to understand what those reasons could be, because what you're saying you have a problem with her doing as far as why she added the charges, that is absolutely legal, and that's how court cases go. How you behave in court and the compassion you show to the family, to the victims, is going to impact your sentencing. This is not shouldn't be unknown to anybody. This is a reason why the victims, this is part of their justice. They get a time to give a statement, a victim impact statement, and everybody's watching your response, because your response directly affects your sentencing. Your entire behavior in court definitely affects how the judge goes with that. If you're showing the judge off bat that you don't even care and you don't even respect the fact that the courts is now saying these are victims of yours, they're not even going to give you a consideration down the road of some kind of, let's see if there's enough rehabilitation to let this nut out. We don't want your cold-hearted kind in our society. They have the right to, in this particular situation, determine that based off your actions. 10, 20 years from now, he could evolve into something, more acceptable. But he ruined that chance in court. Okay? So there's that. There would be no case that you can versus with this. None. Because nothing would change the outcome. Again, I've already read what the sentencing is for this charge. He's already guilty of the charge per his own confession. Him and his lawyer did not try to argue the confession. They didn't say he was coerced. They didn't say he was under duress. They didn't say he misspoke. They didn't argue anything about that confession. He admitted to the crime. The sentencing is what it is. There is nothing to debate. Honestly, it's not.
Line on IG or Facebook, because they have limitations compared to YouTube. We can definitely do that while I'll show you proof. But you don't need me to show you proof. You guys know this is the actual truth. We can have thousands and thousands of cases.
But
we have
it's not.
cases where they killed our 14-year-old kid for false accusations back in the 1920s or whatever. And
Okay, so you're talking about a herder. How silly does that feel to even say that instead of saying the actual word? But that's not this case. He wasn't tried for that. So you can't compare them. Do you not understand that?
give him the electric chair. That's where they made the movie The Green Mile from. Cases like that, ladies and gentlemen. Emmett Till, we can keep going. But Natureboy is the one that gets the book thrown at him. There's been many cult leaders of the other nations. They didn't even get a scratch on the hand, but you guys are worrying about it.
Okay, I smoke. These are not the same cases. Okay. And they're not in the same state and county. Those are two important things. So you actually have no debate here. Okay.
You should be in fear what they just did to Natureboy, because whether he's guilty or not, the reason that you should be worried about this The system took the highest degree to sentence this man. There has never been a fair sentencing practice when it comes to us, and that's what I'm basically saying. I'm not out here to defend Nature Boy. Hell no. Hell no to the fifth power. But I know a lot of you emotional creatures are going to get mad and claim that I'm defending him, even though the receipts and everything is in the pudding. That blessed one do not rock with Nature Boy. But I rock with you, dum-dum. I love you, dum-dum. So therefore, I protect you, dum-dum, because you're my brother.
So I'm not going to call you dum-dum because that's just, I don't think that's necessary. Insults is not going to help us try and understand each other here. It's hard for me to even say he was railroaded anymore because I heard the tape. You understand what I'm saying? However, to some degree, he actually was. He was, in my opinion, robbed of a fair trial. Now, he did do it. He did confess to doing it. And they should have prosecuted accordingly. And they did not. Okay? They did not say, okay, she testified. What say ye? Not guilty, right? He pled not guilty. Well, here's your confession. Okay? And then the defense can say, I object to the confession or whatever. They can try and argue from that standpoint. This is the route that they chose to take, and there's really nothing anybody can do about it. Although I do think that people should have had a problem with it. Regardless, he's going to go down for it anyway. It is the fact that he did not get a fair trial. The defense didn't even really have the opportunity to provide the defense that they actually didn't have. And, his concubines are just equally as, dum-dum, as he is, because they argue some things that are actually correct, yet they chose to go on the stand and lie. So here's the dilemma we have, I Smoke. You are correct that we should not stand idly by and allow these type of things to happen, because this is only saying it could happen to any of us. Okay? But they really didn't give you much to help them with, to be honest. Any kind of way you look at it, as soon as you start to say, dang, here comes Aya, here comes Efaru, here comes Nature Boy, doing something that's blatantly out of bounds and disrespectful. So they actually helped justify the railroading, which it shouldn't be any justification, but if you see you're being jammed up, be on your best behavior. Follow the laws. Anybody will look silly at this point trying to really try to make any type of argument, because they just did so much that was out of pocket. It's just really, it's a draw at this point. It's a draw. Now, if you see someone, a black person, who is on trial, and whether or not you think they did it or not, they still have the right to a fair defense, which is really not being given to our people. And we should always fight for that. But if they are not breaking the law themselves, lying on stand, going online, yapping their mouth while incarcerated, knowing they're not supposed to be online, stuff like that, then yeah, you should stand up for him. If anybody wants to argue that it was imperative that Nature Boy get on live and tell everybody that the judge was the one that tested positive, that's just a silly argument. Telling us didn't do nothing but expose the fact that they were trying to hide who had it. We cannot do anything with that piece of information legally. Only they can. So the only people he needed to tell really was himself. And then whoever he decided to hire to help him with his proceedings after that. Telling the public does not, we already see what's happening. What more did we need? But again, he knew these are the odds he was facing when he decided to go out here. Don't show your butt. Don't give them a reason. And that sounds kind of bad because they don't even need a reason. But we're actually not dum-dums. We have the intelligence to be able to decipher the difference between somebody being snatched up unjustly and treated unfairly unjustly, and somebody who is just clearly showing that they brought this on themselves. Like, in every facet of the statement, he brought it on himself. He wasn't even pretending to respect the courts, and neither were his little three musketeers. Again, his only defense lied on the stand. Now, I can't speak for Jackson Juju. I don't know that, they told blatant lies, but we know Eferu and Aya told more than one lie on stand, and it wasn't even necessary, and it was dumb lies. How do you defend that? I understand you're desperate. Your back is against the wall, but you can't help yourself when you lie. It's going to be brought up that you lied on the stand. That makes you having even less of a shot at anything that you would try to claim. It nulls and voids it all. People should know this. I don't know if they knew it and just thought it was a good tactic because they didn't know what else to do because so many people were against them. I don't know. It's like they were thinking as children, and him too, and behaving as a child. This arrogant Pappas went live. And I believe they said he was live for over an hour, talking smack about the courtroom and the judge. And then he revealed that she tested positive when that was something they did not want the world to know. Now, he got to get spanked for that. We're not saying we agree with it. It's okay. However, that's a no-no. It doesn't make a significant difference for him to come on live and say all he said or come on live at all. It wasn't a matter of life and death. And again, the only thing is just, it was some tea for us. That's all it was. We're not the ones with the power to do anything with that information. Again, what's to be expected? For us to protest on his behalf? Hell no. Especially when we see how they acting. The minute you feel like you want to care, not because it's Natureboy, but because it could be any. You know how Obama said Trayvon Martin could have been my son? Same thing. But the minute you try to see it, him and Aya and Eferu come and remind you why the shit is really even happening. So you just got to sit back and let it rock. Now, if this were somebody else who didn't do all the shit that Natureboy did, hey, I could feel you. Even though you got a lot of stuff wrong here. I'm not sure that you really know the law. I'm just telling you.
You're my sister, and I will speak out on these instances while other ones choose to behave in a, buffoon type of court jester behavior for the masses. But me, I have self-pride in who I am and who we are as a collective. Yes, we are not a monolith, but we are a group and we are a nation of high kings and queens. When will we act like it? And once again, I'm the only content creator on YouTube that says this when I end a video.
I disagree with that too. This is part of the thing that got Natureboy ass in trouble, and I think we need to put a kibosh on all that. Running around here talking about you God, you king, you queen. We're not kings and queens of anything. We're far from that. We're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel. That's just what we've allowed ourselves to become. We don't deserve to run around here calling ourselves kings and queens. That doesn't mean you shouldn't love yourself and think highly of yourself. But we as a people are not kings and queens of anything. So I'm going to strongly disagree with you on that. The very thing that you're complaining about now even states that there are no kings and queens among us. I don't even agree that we were so-called kings and queens back when we were selling and allowing ourselves to be sold to the slave master. What kind of king and queendom is that? I think this is just something that people decided that, you were going to tell yourselves to try, maybe build some self-esteem. I get the intention, but we need to be more realistic here. No.
You know what I'm about to tell you guys? Love your family, love your kids, and truly, ladies and gentlemen, truly stay blessed.
Okay. So that's my response to that. Y'all leave y'all comments below. Do you agree with any or everything that I Smoke has said? And if so, why? All the people that have come through carbonation, all the people that have been affected by this, and look at how they're looking in this picture, smiling. This is back when they were melanation. Is that Yaya right there? With them thick eyebrows. Yaya. Tron. Look at there. Omek. Keys. These people really were happy. They really thought that they were going to go on a significant journey in life to discover things that they could only imagine about themselves. Make a real change amongst people overall. They really felt like that. Some people think that that was his initial intentions. I disagree. I'm going to tell y'all why I disagree. And you can debate me on this if you want in the comment section. Just be respectful. When y'all come talking cash cold junk, I'm just deleting. But if you disagree, I don't got no problem with that. We can wrap a taste on it. And sometimes, y'all say stuff and I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Sometimes y'all might try to call me out. And I'm like, hey, I can't say that they're wrong for having that perspective. Or even, I may even agree with something you said, So, again, just be respectful. All right, but when you come over here talking shit, you should have just said that in your head and kept going. However, I'm going to tell y'all why I don't think that these were Natureboy's true intentions to be really what he initially stated that this was supposed to be. Because that's not who he was. That's not who he was. He lied even about the onset of the journey. He lied about the reason why he started this journey. Now, I have a theory as to how he came about this journey, and I'm not alone. What channel was that? I just recently saw a couple of channels that, have been around for a long time on this, posting, further information that is not something that had been posted before, but further information as to how and who started and initially funded his, journey. I think this is something that was brought to him, and he was given this option, and he was performing for others, right? And this can be backed, along the way. He has definitely been funded, and that funding doesn't come for free. Were there people who saw and said, oh, I support this, I'm gonna donate? Yes, Did they donate a lot? Yes, of course. Look at the people who were there, but they were actually there, right? Yes. So they definitely had an investment, right? They had a direct involvement. So that would be even more reason why they would give up their money. Like this guy, Keys, right here, left corner. His mother's inheritance, what, 300,000? Okay, he came across that kind of money on a regular, but other backers that we never really saw. Okay, again, Nature Boy came about being Nature Boy and running from his life, not leaving as he said, because of what he did to Maisha. So he already started off in deceit and with a demon spirit and an evil heart. You gotta be a demon and an evil person. You don't just do that to someone. That just doesn't happen because, you're going through a bad time in life or you made a mistake or some shit like that. Nah, you gotta be a straight up demon. He was a demon from the start. And the more he grew and the more influence he had over people, and the more he was just open-endedly funded to be able to go where he wanted and do what he wanted to do, and to literally have people thinking you're the Messiah, oh, it just grew. It grew. But it was always there. It was always with him. He never had any intentions on doing right by y'all. He never did right by anybody, including himself. A lot of people still to this day truly believe that it was intended to be a certain way and it was going that way, but it never was. Think of how many people he lost early on. If we were really to dig and go back and show the many of people that took journeys with him in the beginning, they were very short journeys, but it was a lot of people. And they saw early on. Some didn't last more than a day or a couple of days. They saw early on that was not a good place for them to be. Not with this guy. The people that allowed themselves to stay chose to believe. And they had invested reasons. They gave them their monies. They quit their schools. They quit their job. They gave away any possessions they had per his instructions, of course. But they gave it all away. Including what? Their families. Left their children. Left everybody. I don't care what you say. I'm out. You don't want to believe and support, you're out of my life. It's kind of hard to just turn away, but at what point do you? I guess they all individually decided, right all the way down to the last ones. When you look at True, Sheba, Pice, Solar. Although y'all might not agree with me on this, but I don't think Solar really, I don't think he truly departed Nature Boy still as of yet. I don't think so. I think it's going to take him the longest. I think he's just as much with Nature Boy as Aya and them are. He just ain't showing it. That fool looked heartbroken in court. He looked mad like he wanted to snatch Nature Boy up and run. But we know Solar loved him. Like, loved him. Really loved him. So, again, these people made choices and decisions. Even the later ones that came after seeing all they saw online, they still made a choice to go be with this dude. That can only create a bigger monster. These people that were with him are the ones who basically co-creators. They're co-creators of this monster that he grew to be. If they weren't with him, if they weren't following him, if they weren't obeying him, if they weren't demonstrating the things that they were demonstrating, that they would let him do anything he say, he would have never had all that power. He would have never got that big. He was getting off on it. Did y'all not hear, who was that said, actually it was more than one person recently, that said when he told Malia to get on the ground face down, he was beating her, and then he would beat her a lot, and he started to say, this feels good, and told her to go get in the bathtub so she can get wet while he beat her. I smoke. Does that sound like something some of the other people that you're talking about did when they whipped people? Well, he did that. Do you not remember when Velvet gave birth because of his negligence? You don't remember that? Do you remember Willow and her baby? A pure skeleton? Because of him? Do you not remember what happened to Malia? Do you not remember when she was in the hospital? And they put this girl on hospice care. She was so bad off. And him hovering over her the entire time. On live. Who is that? They came in your room. And, being concerned about them coming for him, pointing him out to be the one who did this to her. But essentially, she did it to herself. She stayed there. She allowed it. Time and time again. They didn't come and get him then. And I actually thought that they were going to come get him for that. But she has to cooperate. She has to say, this is my abuser. He did this. And she didn't do that. She went back. And she's still there. And she's still there. It's weird. Well, actually, it's ironic. Because you're saying black women don't care about black men. But the same black man that you're hollering about has four. Because one's in jail on his behalf. You got 4 black women still. And this dude got life. Well, I'm not going to speak for Zoka because she in jail. But she probably had a wake-up call. We don't even know it yet. You don't hear those 3 girls or women hollering about Zoka. They don't talk about her. They don't say she's okay. We spoke to her. She got money on her books. Free Zoka. Help us with Zoka. Who Zoka who? They're only concerned about Natureboy. So how's that? And they're the ones who was with his raggedy ass. We wasn't with Natureboy. We not gonna go hard for him. They going hard for him. And they was there. They was a part of the abuse. They saw the abuse. And they going hard for him. So how can you come on here and say that? He wasn't our dude. You say, I'm not your baby daddy. I'm not your... Okay, and he not our baby daddy. And actually, even though you weren't addressing everybody, but a lot of us don't have baby daddies. A lot of us have husbands and children's fathers, so that's a difference. But he ain't none of that. He's that to them, and they standing beside him. The other women, they got men. Sheba was what? One of the last women? She got a dude. She left with her man. So I think that's another case right there. If her man say, let's go, we done here. She went with her man. She didn't say, no, you can take the baby, but I'm staying. And you can take that other crap, but Dominic will come with me. No, she went. She left. I think that's loving her black man son and her black man. because she was dedicated. I don't see the gripe here. I don't see the gripe, but y'all let me know what y'all think.